Before we start the video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe and hit the post bell notification button so you don't miss another video that I post on Point Politics. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about future swing states and safe states for both political parties. Now, looking at the electoral map here, Donald Trump had a massive win in the Electoral College in the 2024 presidential election due to minority groups turning out at high rates for the former president and him slightly improving among white working class voters and white voters as a whole. He basically shifted every single state to the right from the 2020 presidential election, which gives him a mandate not only in the Electoral College where he got 313, he also managed to get the national popular vote by about 1.5 points. That's what it seems like it's going to end up being, give or take around that area. And so looking at the electoral map going forward, you know, a lot can in fact change, but looking at some of the demographic movements and some of the kind of projected shifts that I see in the country right now, I'm actually kind of ready to fill out states that, you know, are more than likely going to be in the solid camp for Republicans or Democrats, but also look for places that may be a warning sign for the GOP or a warning sign for the Democrats. For example, California, you know, it did move Republican quite massively. It moved to the right by 9 points, but I don't think it's in the warning for Democrats territory yet. Republicans may max out there. It's possible, but we will see going into the future. Washington and Oregon, I mean, there's those, they're going to be safe. I mean, Kamala won Oregon by 14 points and won Washington by 18. I mean, they didn't even shift that Republican at all. And so I really don't see these being a problem for the Democrat Party anytime soon. Idaho, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Montana, I think these are going to be in the solid Republican column as of right now. I also think the 3rd Congressional District will be safe Republican, but I do want to talk about the rest of the state as a whole. I also have Arkansas, Louisiana in that column, including Alabama, Tennessee, you know, Kentucky, as well as West Virginia in that column as well, including Missouri. So those are states that I believe more than likely are going to be in that no matter what happens in the future column. You'll probably see those being in the safe Republican column. I also think that a state like even Hawaii, honestly, I don't see it being in the warning sign for Democrat column right now. I do think Massachusetts, Vermont are going to be in the safe column, including Maryland, District of Columbia. Those will be just completely gone at that point right now for the Republicans. I think they're going to stick with Democrats as of right now, but really the rest of the states, I can't say the same. And you're going to notice there's a lot of toss-up states here. You notice that Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma are kind of toss-ups. Oklahoma, you could probably say safe Republican as of right now, but looking at this, I would say that Utah is one of the states that I actually would say is a warning for the GOP. Looking at my 2028 modeling, there is a very good chance that the Republican will probably not even win the state by over 15. Donald Trump only improved in the state by about a point from the last election. And the Salt Lake City area continues to move left. You have a lot of voters that are not for this, you know, basically, they're not for the whole populist movement. They're very much more establishmentarian. And as the state grows with some of these California implants, you may actually see the state of Utah continue to shift left away from the GOP. Again, it's not going to flip in 28. I really doubt it, but it is, in fact, a warning sign for the GOP. That's where I'm going to be putting that state as of right now. I do in fact think that Republicans or Democrats, I mean, they don't really have to worry about Colorado right now. I think that's going to be long gone for Republicans. I think Iowa and Ohio, I think right now are also in that, you know, sort of safe Republican column. I think Florida and Texas, albeit, yes, they are close to safe. I think they are likely Republican as of right now. I think that, yes, they are moving to the right, and I think that they're going to stay with the GOP from quite some time. I would say Kansas is a warning state for the GOP. There are a lot of white suburban college educated voters that are moving left there. The state didn't even move that much more Republican from last cycle either. And so without somebody like Donald Trump on the ballot, you may actually see a state like Kansas possibly narrow up into the single digits going into the 2030s. So it's definitely possible. I would definitely keep an eye on Kansas. I'd also say even a state like Nebraska, to be honest with you, I even think would be a little bit of a problem, including that first district. You have a lot of people moving into Omaha. The area is very much growing, it becoming more liberal compared to the rest of the nation. The district was a pretty decent win for Kamala. I mean, she's literally winning it by 4.7% in right now. She's winning it by 5 points essentially, and Donald Trump won the popular vote. And so that district is effectively gone. And when you have a closer national environment, you're probably gonna have a state like Nebraska possibly get under 15. I would definitely keep an eye on Nebraska, because this whole part of the country right here is going to be moving a little bit to the left. You're going to see college attainment, or at least education attainment, really determine how the future of the country goes. At this point, I think New Mexico, this one's interesting because I actually think that New Mexico, I'm going to put it in the likely Dem column. The reason why is because, yes, you do have Hispanics moving right, but those white liberal college educated voters are moving too much. They're moving way too much to the left. They're just moving too much for the state to even be in the warning for Democrats column. But I do think it could be like a 4 to 6 point win, 4 to 7 point win from now on. It's definitely going to diverge from Colorado for sure. Alaska, another warning state for the GOP. This one is trending left. They still have ranked choice voting. I actually think that that state in the 2030s could probably get within a couple points, possibly even within 5. I'd say out of any of the states that I have in the warning for GOP column so far, I'd actually say that Alaska is probably the one that would go first out of everything. I'd also even say that Mississippi is even in the warning for GOP column. And there are some warning states for Democrats too. We'll get into that, guys, so don't worry about that. I also have South Carolina as another one on my list as well for warning signs for the GOP. And currently with Georgia, I actually think this is going to be a lean Democrat state going into the future. Now, can the Republican win it in 28? Yeah, but talking about states that are into the future swing states, I think that Georgia is probably going to be in the lean Democrat column. Now, Illinois, I think, is actually in the warning for Dems column. Even though it was a 10-point win for Kamala Harris, the fact that Republicans are focusing on their Rust Belt appeal, especially with nominating somebody like J.D. Vance, is actually going to make the state move super Republican going into the 2030s. And J.D. Vance could potentially flip it in a 2032 matchup if he were to be a super popular incumbent. I also think that Minnesota at this point is going to be in the column for Democrats as of right now. I think Arizona, with the whole college attainment thing, I actually think that this one is a little bit interesting. I'm going to actually leave this one in the toss-up column. Donald Trump did extremely well in the state due to his massive support with Hispanics, but it's not guaranteed that Republicans can create that support yet again at the national level. And so I think it's best suited to leave it as a toss-up. However, Nevada, I would actually say, is lean Republican, mainly because Republicans in the future, I think, are going to improve with non-college voters relative to the nation. And with Nevada being one of the highest non-college swing states, I actually think it's going to probably stay in the at least 1 to 2 point column for the GOP heading into the future. I think North Carolina is effectively a pure toss-up. Now, Virginia, I would actually say, is a warning for Dem state. It got close, and yes, you have those Nova areas moving left, but at the same time, you have this rural vote coming out of a place like, Western, Virginia. Western rural Virginia is definitely showing up here, and I wouldn't be surprised if the state becomes semi-competitive in the future. As of right now, I would actually not be surprised whatsoever if we have that. Another state that is going to surprise people is Pennsylvania. I actually think Pennsylvania in the future could be more Republican than, for example, a North Carolina even. North Carolina is getting a lot of college grad, sort of those, establishmentarian kind of neoliberal kind of voters in the research triangle, and that's kind of pushing the state to the left of the nation a little bit. And so I definitely see it as a warning sign for Republicans in North Carolina heading into the future. Another big state that people are going to give me flack for, I think New York and New Jersey are potential warning states for the Democrats. I actually think that's the case with, all three possible nominees, that being Vance, Ron DeSantis, or RFK for the Republican Party, the ones that Mazur Z has floated on his channel. They're all Catholic nominees, and there's a lot of them in the Northeast. And so that appeal to the Catholic base is definitely going to affect areas in the Northeast. And I actually think that that's one of the reasons why Pennsylvania would potentially be in this lean column. And I would even argue that New Jersey would potentially be like an effective toss-up going into the future. Georgia, guys, those Atlanta suburbs in Georgia are just absolutely abysmal. I mean, if you go here and you actually see like the swing map, I mean, Kamala Harris is literally doing better in raw votes in suburban Atlanta. And so with the amount of population growth that the state has seen, the fact that it's moving more left because of those college-attained voters, more credentialed voters, I actually think the state's probably going to be a lean Democrat stronghold. It's possibly going to be like a Nevada slash, sort of a Michigan type of state for the Democrats heading into the future. It's going to be one of those states where the GOP is going to try to win it back, but it may in fact end up being a problem for them. I really think that New Hampshire's gone for the GOP. I mean, if Trump couldn't win it now, especially with a administration that was very pro-war, you have a lot of Boston implants that are moving here, and so that's really tainting the state's Republican registration. And you also have a lot of like Rhino Republicans here too. I also think that Maine, I mean, at this point, I think the state is basically gone for Republicans. As of right now, I really don't see that being in play. I think that a state that could be a problem for Democrats is actually Connecticut. That one was really close. And yes, like, of course, Kamala still won it by like 11 to 13 points. But when you actually look at the raw votes, you're going to see warning signs there. It was only like a couple thousand votes, like 100,000 votes for Kamala Harris. And so Connecticut could potentially become a problem in the future for the Democrat Party, and the state of New Jersey effective toss-up. Delaware, I wouldn't say it's, in the trouble column for Democrats, but I would put it in the likely column as of right now. And so with everything that we see here, Republicans have Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, New Jersey, and Arizona in the future on the table. Now, let's say, Arizona goes. So, for example, let's say Arizona ends up going, right? Let's say that's the case. North Carolina goes, Michigan goes, you really only need, you actually end up needing all the swing states here, believe it or not. You would need all of them to get to 277. However, it also depends on how other things tend to shake out. So, for example, if we go over here, there's so many different paths that this could take. So let's kind of free up all of these, states that I have kind of here. We could potentially see something in the future where you kind of have a really changed electoral map where, for example, let's just kind of go ahead and fill all these in. You may have a very different electoral map heading into the future. A possible future map in the 2040s could look really weird for the Democrat and the GOP electorate. So if we were to go over here, these are kind of all of the states I proposed were either toss-ups or essentially, future problems for either party. And so like an expanded battleground map going, 10 plus, 15 plus years into the future could look something like this, where the Republican completely sweeps the Electoral College and ends up getting a pretty massive win here. So you see they take all of these states like this, and they end up getting about a 340, 377 Electoral College win, or the Democrat just kind of goes in there and really sweeps the Electoral College and just kind of calls it a day. Now, more than likely, what would probably happen, guys, is a state like, for example, Mississippi, if that were to go, Louisiana would be way more competitive. So you kind of have something like this as like a full sweep, which funny enough is only 217 to 321 for the Democrats. So it's like really not even that good actually in retrospect. But there is a possible realignment happening where, the GOP kind of targets more Catholic, white working class kind of voters, and the Democrats kind of just focus on college attained voters, and you may end up having a map that looks really weird in the future and kind of looks like this, where the Democrats are sort of like the weird party of the Sun Belt now, where they're starting to win some of those Sun Belt states back due to massive college attainment with some voters. Like, you could actually have in like a landslide election, like this could potentially happen for a Democrat in the future, where it's like this entire thing kind of just goes. But I honestly think even if that were the case, I don't even know if Mississippi were to go. You see here they get 270. Texas flipping would be very questionable as well. And so, yeah, the future could look really weird for electoral politics. I wouldn't even put this map completely out of the question, with Republicans focusing more with their populist messaging in the Northeast / the Midwest. It would not surprise me to see something like this happen in the future. As of right now, it's definitely within the question of possibilities. And so, yeah, there are so many ways that the electorate could shake out in, 20 plus years. But I kind of wanted to do just a speculative kind of fun video, just going over like how everything could potentially go down, in the future for either party. These are kind of the states that I see end up trending in certain directions and that could potentially flip for either party. But again, a very expanded battleground map. If you go in with a sort of MAGA-ish type of Republican, you're going to hold Utah and Kansas, you're gonna hold South Carolina, you're gonna lose New Mexico, you're gonna lose Virginia, you're possibly gonna lose still Connecticut and New York and lose Illinois, but you open up the map in a place like New Jersey. Georgia might be out of the question for you, but a state like North Carolina may tip, New Jersey may end up going, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, and Nevada may end up being there. Wisconsin may kind of fall. It just depends on the demographics. And then if you're like a Democrat, or if the Republicans just run a very, mediocre type of, Republican candidate, you're going to lose ground in a lot of these states. I would even say if the Republicans just completely drop the ball and kind of go to the party of Nikki Haley / Mitt Romney, you could potentially see a map like this in the Electoral College, where the Democrats get like 340 to Republicans 198, and potentially even lose states like Iowa and Ohio going into the future, if you go back to this kind of Romney / Nikki Haley style kind of Republican party. So definitely really interesting to see how this would shake out in 20 plus years. But all of the states in blank I could see potentially shifting towards either party in a sort of an expanded battleground map going into the future. Hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this, and I will see you guys in the next video. If you enjoyed this clip from the podcast, hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this.